So, if you were keeping an eye on the Knoxville real estate market in 2025, you know something big happened. It felt different. Today, we're going to dive into the data and tell the story of what exactly went down, why it happened, and most importantly, what it all means for the year ahead. After years of just, nonstop growth, 2025 had a totally different vibe. Prices started to shift, more and more homes were hitting the market, and the question on pretty much everyone's mind was, are we in a boom? Is this a bust, or is it something else entirely? Well, here's the answer. The big story of 2025 wasn't some dramatic crash. It was a reset, a really crucial one. The market finally started to move away from that absolute fever pitch of the last few years and settle into something much more balanced, and honestly more sustainable. This table really lays it all out, doesn't it? Before 2025, it was just a frenzy. You had intense competition, prices shooting up, and practically no homes for sale. But during the 2025 reset, that whole power dynamic shifted. Price growth kind of leveled off, inventory actually started climbing, and for the first time in a long time, buyers had a little more say in the matter. Okay, so to really get what this reset was all about, we gotta look at the data. The numbers, they don't lie. They tell the real story of how things changed, month by month, all through 2025. So the very first sign that things were changing was the inventory. Check out this blue line. That's the number of active listings, and you can see it just climbed steadily all year long. For buyers, this was a huge relief. It meant you actually had choices again. And what happens when there are more homes to choose from? Well, they start to take a little longer to sell. The average days on market crept up and up, hitting 55 days by November. Compared to the lightning-fast sales of the years before, that was a major, major slowdown. So, the big question, how did this all affect prices? We saw two things happen. Over here on the left, you can see that listing prices started to adjust. And on the right, the sold-to-list price ratio took a little dip, which is just a fancy way of saying that those crazy, over-the-top bidding wars were finally starting to cool off. Now, before we look at our last piece of data, let's just quickly talk about a key term. The absorption rate. It sounds kind of technical, but all it really means is, if no new homes were listed, how long would it take to sell every single home currently on the market? The higher that number, the slower the market is moving. And look at this chart. It confirms everything. The absorption rate in Knox County went from just over 2 months of supply all the way up to more than 3 months by the end of the year. This is classic textbook evidence of a market shifting gears from a seller's frenzy to a much more balanced playing field. Okay, so we've geeked out on the numbers. But what did this new, balanced market actually feel like for the real people out there trying to buy a home? Man, for buyers, 2025 was like a breath of fresh air in so many ways. You had more homes to see, you actually had time to think and make a decision, and you could negotiate again. And, this is a big one, things like home inspections came back, you could protect yourself again. The one big challenge, of course, was still affordability, because those higher mortgage rates were definitely pinching everyone's budget. Now, on the flip side, what did this mean for sellers? Well, it meant it was time to adapt. The old strategies that worked like a charm back in 2022 and 2023, they just weren't enough to guarantee a quick sale anymore. The sellers who did really well in 2025 were the strategic ones. They priced their homes smart, right from the beginning, based on real data. They invested in making their house look amazing, online and in person, and they got it. They understood that they were now competing for attention and that being open to a little negotiation was just part of the game. In this quote right here, it just sums it all up perfectly. That frantic weekend rush where you'd list on a Friday and have a stack of offers by Monday, it didn't disappear completely, but it definitely wasn't the norm anymore. For sellers, patience became a virtue all over again. So, with the big market reset of 2025 behind us, what does the road ahead look like? Let's turn our attention to 2026 and talk about what buyers and sellers should be getting ready for. All right, if you're planning to buy a home in 2026, here's your game plan. First, get super clear on your budget. With today's rates, don't just sit around waiting for some perfect rate that might never come. Second, really focus on your lifestyle. What do you actually need? Good schools? A short commute? And finally, use this new, slower pace to your advantage. Be patient, do your homework, but be ready to pounce when you find the right one. And for all you sellers out there, success in this market comes down to 3 things. 1, preparation. It's not optional anymore. Your home has to shine. 2, price it realistically from day one. Buyers are smart, and they will just skip over a house that's overpriced. And 3, you absolutely need to partner with a pro, an agent who lives and breathes the local data and knows how to navigate this new market.
Looking ahead, the general consensus isn't for another crazy boom or a painful bust. Instead, just about every expert is pointing toward continued balance. And what does that mean? It means more modest price changes and a pace of sales that just feels, well, more normal and a lot more healthy.
And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. In this new, balanced market, who really has the biggest opportunity? Is it the buyers, who finally have some leverage back? Is it the sellers, who are smart and strategic? Or is it the entire East Tennessee region, now set up for more stable, sustainable growth for years to come? Definitely something to chew on as we head into the new year.